welcome to Murder
and everything else.
My name is Joy.
And my name is Cheryl, and Joy and I are two old friends who are going to discuss, chit-chat, talk about murder and everything else.
Ring-a-ding-ding! Hey! Just a disclaimer for all of our listeners, this is not for kids.
Yes, for sure. Especially this one. I say that every time.
Especially because Cheryl's got a real potty mouth.
You know me.
I know. She's a real fucking shitter. Anyway, Cheryl, on that note, you want to talk about your highs and lows? I can't wait.
Oh, not really. I don't really want to talk about my low, but I'm going to. And it has to do with my surgery. So I canceled it. And I'm going to make this as short as possible because I've already spoken about this on previous episodes. But I just want to say how crazy and upside down our insurance is. That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say. And people are going to be saying, well, tell us more, because
tell me more.
I know you're wondering, well, that's not enough. What happened? I'm just going to say that normally I have never experienced this before, or not that I can remember, which is not saying much. But whenever you go to the doctor, even if you see the nurse practitioner or the physician's assistant, the claim is always put under the doctor. Therefore, when I selected the orthopedist, I went to my insurance in-network website to check to see if he was in network. Yes, he was. Check. I even called my insurance company, and they're probably looking at the same website I am, which I've already said this before. And they were like, yes, he's in network. Check. I called the orthopedic, the hospital. And when I'm going to make my appointment with him, I said, is he in network? Check. Then I have not yet seen the doctor. I've only seen his PAs. Fine. But one of them was in network and one was not. Tell me how that works. Anybody out there in the insurance field, or if you are a PA yourself? No. Then I went to ask the PA herself, why are you in network or not? Because this surgery thing, I don't want any surprises. And this was her answer. I don't know. I recommend that you call your insurance company. The end. Whoa. How does the PA herself not? So I'm done. I was like, someone called me from, I'm going to call it the retention department, although that wasn't her title, but basically she wanted to know why I was canceling. And, she was very savvy with her wording. She goes, okay, so when we can get this all cleared up and make sure that so-and-so PA is in network, we can reschedule this. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not coming back to your facility. I said, I already booked another doctor, but you should know that this nonsense is going on in your company, and I've never experienced this before. So that's my low. The other thing is that we have yet to see an actual doctor. Dentist is different, but an actual doctor, whether it's neurology, whether it's a primary care provider, whatever we have yet to see the actual doctor. We meaning Kevin and I, we have only seen physician's assistants and nurse practitioners. So somebody
maybe
out
there's no more doctors out there. Maybe I think all there are left are physician's assistants and nurse practitioners.
I think so. And then, or you have doctors, all we have are Christopher Dunches. Remember that guy?
Oh, Dr. yeah, Dr. Death.
I don't know. If anybody is in the insurance, not car insurance, but medical insurance field, or you are a doctor, nurse, or whatever it may be yourself, you're in the medical field, please write us at murderandeverythingelse@gmail.com and give me your input into this, because the world has gone absolutely mad. So anyway, I'm starting from scratch. Starting from scratch.
Bonkers.
I just didn't want to be dealing with any billing nightmares when I'm laid up, so
yeah,
that's my low.
No. Because you don't need your blood pressure going too high when you're already laying in bed recovering from a surgery.
Exactly. So I said, fuck this noise, excuse me, but I am not. I told her, I said, I
Fuck
have no
this noise.
I said, I
You
have
should
no
have said that to the lady on the phone. Is there anything else you'd like to we can help you with? Yeah, fuck this noise.
No, I told her I have no confidence in your billing department. I said I can't be dealing with that. And I told her I had never dealt with this before with the claim not going under the doctor's name. Anyway, I could go on and on about this. I'm sure people out there don't want to hear any more about it, but I also know that people can relate to this. So something has got to be revamped in our insurance policies, and this whole medical field is just crazy.
Yeah.
That's my low. But my high is that not only was it my birthday a couple of weeks ago, but my baby Callie's birthday was on the
Aw.
10th. No, the 11th. Sorry.
Aw.
11th, a few days ago, and she turned 14. And so she's still with
Aw.
me, and I love her so much. So that's my high. Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Happy birthday, Callie.
Happy birthday. Yep. And she no longer, Callie and Jet used to be like professional models, particularly Callie. She would just sit there and look at me and let me take as many pictures as I needed to,
Oh,
changing
you guys.
angle.
And Cheryl would put like hats and visors and arm warmers and like dresses and coats on her. I
Yes.
mean, she's like a diva. I think she probably has a Gucci Prada like outfits. I mean, it's unreal.
Yeah, no, she has pearls. She wore pearls for her
Oh my
last
God.
pic. But in the last couple of years, she's, I think in her mind, she's like, I am a retired model. I no longer pose for pictures because she will not look at me anymore. She looks
Aw.
off in the distance, or she's looking at me. She's looking at me when I have my phone down by my side. And as soon as I pull it up, she looks away. Before we,
This is what's going through her head as she's looking. You're like, Callie, she's all, Jesus, take the wheel. Jesus, take the wheel. Jesus. She's all, how many years of this am I gonna have to put up with?
no, I think we used to be able, she will not sit through a whole happy birthday song. So yes, everybody, we sing her happy birthday.
Oh.
So Kevin and I used to sing to them, and to her, and well, to Jet too, but Jet's always not been, he's not as good as Kelly. But anyway,
He's not as
he's totally,
cooperative.
he's not a professional. Um but we used to be able to sing an entire birthday song to her, and she would just look at us. This past few days ago on the 11th, she we got through half the song and she stood up and walked away.
She's all,
Oh.
I'm done. Jesus didn't take the wheel, so I am.
Oh my God. Okay. Anyway, what was your high?
Oh, well, I'm gonna start with my low. I had so many highs, first of all, that it was so hard to narrow it down. I feel like I feel like I just want to shout them all out and be like blah 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 blah. But that's not how this
I
works.
can think of a low for you.
But my low is well, I'm just going to talk about my hair. So my low is my hair. My hair in all fairness, I feel like it started when I got COVID 2 years ago, but it probably started before that. So I've been dealing with this hair loss for like 2.5 years, and it was very, very, very subtle and very slow. But and I invested in this very expensive like shampoo and conditioner, and it helped. And then I went back to just using not garbage, but like, whatever you buy like at the store. I've never been one of those like, oh, if you buy this biocarotene, like made with baby's fingernails and mother's breast milk and rub it all over your hair and then like, sit in a sitz bath and then fart in a mud puddle. I mean, I've never been that kind of person. I only started buying quality moisturizer and putting it on my face regularly in the last 10 years. So that tells you that like just maintenance wise, I've not been a prima donna or a diva. So yeah, so
I
maybe
remember.
that's
Can I
why my
interject?
hair's fall. Yeah.
When
Yeah,
we
yeah.
worked together in Oregon, so this was many, many years ago, right? Like 20 something.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going into a TJ Maxx or that kind of store with you, and you grabbed a bottle of shampoo, and I distinctly remember this. I remember, you know how you remember just little things throughout your life,
Mm-hmm.
like some of the more significant ones I don't even remember, but I remember you saying to me, "I use whatever shit for shampoo." I
Yep.
remember you telling me,
It's true.
"I don't care what it is."
It's
So,
true. And I've
let this be
always had
a lesson.
really thick hair. So it's not thick anymore. And there's actually like, and so a year ago I cut bangs to kind of frame my face and to kind of mask the fact that the area above the bangs is very thin, but
Mm.
now it's like really thin. Like when I make a ponytail, there's not a ponytail holder that really stays in my hair except those rubber bands that orthodontists use for teeth. So that tells you how little hair I have, because that's the only amount of hair I need to stay in the ponytail
Oh,
holder. Yeah, I can't use clippies. I can't use those, those clips that you clip that open up like teeth.
banana,
Yeah, I
banana
can't
clips
use those because there's too
slip out.
too little hair. Yeah.
What about baby
So
clips?
yeah, I can use little baby clippies, but some of those even slip out because my hair is also very slippery.
Mm.
So anyway, there's that. So it's the
Why don't
hair.
you
And
comb over like Trump?
ooh, yeah. Now you're talking. Here's what I'll do. I'll bring it up from the back and, you know,
That's right. No
uh,
one's done a
back to
up
front. I'll be like,
back
look, a
upper.
back to front comb over.
There you go.
And then I'll cut the bangs from the back, but then I won't have anything covering the back. I'm going to play with it. Thanks for the suggestion because it's working so well for him. But but in the meantime, um I actually recently considered a wig. So stand by for if I get off the plane and I look like Carol Channing and you won't be able to recognize me. Or Mary Tyler Moore, or I might look like Richard Simmons, and then you'll be like, "Oh, this Richard Simmons looking woman walked right past me, but I didn't even recognize you." And I'll be like, "Surprise!" Anyway, so that's my
Oh,
low.
well, I can't
And my
wait.
high, oh, I had so many highs. I was like, ay, ay, ay. My niece Heidi gave me a computer and okay, I had a Chromebook for like 8 years, and it was a great Chromebook. I got it from a previous employer. I used it for the company that I worked for 5 years. I quit the job and then I used it for like another 3 years. But Chromebooks don't have a lot of storage, but this computer is unbelievable. It has like a stylus that's magnetic that sticks to the side. The like power cord is magnetic, and so you don't even have to like, it just like sucks in. It's got like it's a tablet so you can disconnect it from the keyboard. It's got a little kickstand so you can set it up on its own. It's just so fancy schmancy. I
That's
love it.
awesome. It's a PC or
And
a Mac?
yeah, it's a PC and it's I'll tell you what the brand is right now without breaking anything. Ooh, and I'm putting stickers on it. It's one of those Surface Pros.
Oh, I don't know.
It's
You know
really
what's sad
nice.
is that my laptop is about 8 years old too, and in the technology world, that is ancient. But really, eight
Yeah.
years is, it's like the iPhone. They have a new one every 6 months. So if you want to stay on top of it, you got to
Yeah.
be rich, rich,
Yeah.
rich.
You do.
Um,
You
but well,
also have to be really gadgety because a lot of these things come with new updates and new features. And if you're not real like up on the tech world, it's like, who's got the time and energy to be learning all that new shit?
yeah, I know. That's why
Anywho,
when you get old, I think there is a cutoff. Um, an age where you you just leave it all behind. You're like, I don't know any, I don't do technology. That's why a lot of older people, like,
Ooh.
they can't work cell phones, they can't, because
Yeah.
it's just, and I don't blame them. It's incredible, and then you get frustrated, and yeah, just
Yeah, but
sad.
remember when I was like, "Oh, you asked me one time, you're like, what are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm texting my friend Julie." And you were like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Texting. Everybody's texting. That's how you have like instant conversations." And you're like, "Yeah, I don't text." And I'm now,
Yeah.
and then like for a long time, we went through a period of time where all the conversations we had were text conversations.
Hmm.
Didn't even
No,
have
that's
phone conversations. And it's so funny because you've like now taken over the texting market.
well, I've always been a step behind. I think I've said it before, and you've always been a step ahead.
No,
You were
but you
texting.
are a big texter, and I'm not a big texter anymore.
Well, but that's what's sad. Like, yeah, it was incredible. You were you picked up your phone. You were dropping me off at the airport. I remember this, and we were in the car, and then you picked up your cell phone, and then you tick tick tick, you're to me, and I said, "What is that? What are you doing?" And you said, "Oh, I'm texting Julie. She likes to text me." And I go, "What is that?" I literally did not know what texting was. And then, like I said, when I first got my first iPhone, I said, "I'm not going to live my life with my face in my phone. I'm only going to pull it out when I need to communicate with someone. I'm not going to be taking pictures of everything and,
Of my
constantly
dog
looking at my
wearing a
cell phone."
bandana and pearls.
Like that woman who was texting, and then she like there was some water, like little pool in the middle of water feature in the middle of the mall, and she freaking stepped right in
Oh,
because she was
girl,
texting.
girl, people fall into the Grand Canyon and freaking die. It's
Oh,
and
was there a story like
volcanoes. Yes.
that? I missed
All you have
that.
to do is Google it. It's
Oh, I'm
so
sure.
crazy.
Well, but now I'm one of
People are
those.
crazy.
Hopefully, I won't be a headline that I
Don't go
plunged
to the
off the
Grand
side of the.
Canyon.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, and then now it's gotten to where I don't like to talk on the phone. I only like to text.
So funny because I don't like to not talk on the
I
phone.
know that's because you like to talk.
I love to talk on the phone. And I feel like it's such a great way to like, I don't know. I just love talking on the phone. It makes me so sad when people, and it's funny when people don't talk on the phone, like nowadays kids don't talk on the phone. Sometimes I'll be talking to my kids and they will just hang up the phone because in their minds the conversation was over. And every time it happens, I'll like look at my husband, I'll be like, I think they think they're in a movie. You know how people in the movies always hang up the phone without saying goodbye?
Yeah, I
They just
know.
go,
Yeah,
chick,
yeah.
and the conversation's over. I'm all, what is this? Do they think they're in a movie or something? And he's like, aha, they don't know how to use the phone. I
Oh
remember
wow.
specifically being in the third and fourth grade, and the teacher, because our teacher's name was Joy Lear, and I was so excited because I'd never met anybody named Joy before. And she was so cool. She had short hair. She was just such a cool lady. And she would teach us. We had telephone skills, and it was my favorite, favorite, favorite part of the day where she
What?
would
What
put a
grade were you?
phone. I was either in third or fourth grade. She'd put a phone on the desk, and it would go like bring bring, and you pick it up and be like, "Hi, my name's Joy. I live on this street. I have on a blue dress. I have dark hair. And then she'd always be like, "No, we have to say hello. This is so and so's residence. Would you like to speak to Mr. or Mrs.?" And she would teach us how to actually talk to people. And
Well,
I just thought that was the best part of the day at
yeah, I bet you
school.
got an A+ in that class.
Yeah, and I remember also, well, I don't know if I told this story, but they also used to worry about like how much information kids gave away on the phone because
Right.
that people would be predators, or they would sometimes you'd hear kids picking up the phone and somebody would be breathing heavy on the other line. Someone gave my kids a book when they were little, and it said there was a chapter on obscene phone calls, and it had this like bubble drawing of these kids with the holding the phone, and it said what to do if somebody makes a phone call that's dirty. And Chloe's reading the book to her little sister, and her little sister looks at her and she goes, what is the dirty phone call? And
Oh.
Chloe goes, it's when somebody's on the other phone and they say poo poo, pee pee, poo poo, and then they hang it up. Oh, we thought that was so, first of all, we didn't have landlines by that time. Second of all, we thought that was so funny. I was like, if I had known when I was a child that I could call somebody and go, poo poo, pee pee, poo poo, I would have done it so many times.
Oh my God, that is so cute. That's like
I don't
goodbye
know why I
fishes.
didn't. I don't know why I didn't think of that. But anyway.
Oh, that's adorable. Well, congratulations on your new computer. That is very exciting.
Well, I'm going to bring it and show it to you because it's so exciting.
Show it off.
Like, it's probably, she used this all through grad school and college. So it's probably same amount of time as old as my Chromebook, but it's fancy to me. Anyway, we need to give an update on our trivia giveaway contest. Yay! We have our first winners, and the winner is Noreen in Hawaii. Yes. Sending Noreen a huge shout out for not answering once, but answering twice and getting the correct answer. And remember, we downgraded the rules, so I'm surprised I haven't sent her 35 mugs by now. But Noreen, thank you so much for taking pictures and sending them to us. We're going to post the pictures of Noreen and Joyce holding our mugs on our Instagram account. Yay. And just so that those of you who maybe were thinking about entering but didn't do it yet, remember, there's no real rules. You just have to shout out the right answer. Somehow call us, text us. You can telegram us. You can even post it on Instagram. You can email us. And that's how Noreen won, by emailing us at murderandeverythingelse@gmail.com.
Yay! And if you all remember, Noreen is my sister, and she is the one that gave me the forever imprinted in my brain advice of don't complicate your day. That's right. Where that comes from. And
also, in honor of Noreen, we just also want to make a shout out to our brothers and sisters in Maui, and the recovery for all the people that have gone missing, all the homes that have burned, all the lives that have been lost, and all of the families that have been devastated by the fires there. There are so many GoFundMe's and outreach, Red Cross, and also organizations, nonprofits that are doing all kinds of, like, accepting donations and cash donations, and also like food donations and clothing donations, because it's going to take a real it's going to take an effort to rebuild people's lives. And if anything, just remember to take care of our earth, because anytime there's a catastrophic event like this, wildfires, tsunamis, floods, it's a reminder that, the planet, we have to take gentle care of our planet. So anyway, shout out to our Hawaiian brothers and sisters. It's been a very huge tragedy.
Yeah, for sure. So if you have any family or friends there, we are sending our thoughts and prayers.
Yes. Anyway, Cheryl has prepared an amazing presentation today on catching a killer. So take it away, Cheryl.
Okay, well, you know me, I'm the mood crasher. So I'm going to talk about catching Daniel Morcombe's killer. And I do want to give another disclaimer that not only is this not for children, but it may not be for some adults. It is going to involve a murder of a child. So just please beware. I wanted to focus on catching his killer. So that is why I'm bringing this story to light, because I watched the movie on Netflix called The Stranger. And if you go and look for it, there are going to be I think there's another movie called The Stranger. I know that there is a series called The Stranger. I don't know. I guess people could not come up with any other title but The Stranger. But this one is starring Joel Edgerton and Sean Harris. Now, Joel Edgerton, I told you, Joy, that he was in the movie The Gift with Jason Bateman, and I've loved him ever since. Um, uh, but anyway, he stars in this, and that's what drew me to watch it. And now, while I was watching it, I thought, I remember like the true story of this. Is this a true story? So I was googling it while I was watching, and sure enough, it is a true story. So if you want good acting, great acting, and to see the story unfold itself, I would recommend this movie, The Stranger. But my other resources are the YouTube channels called That Chapter and True Crime Australia, as well as Wikipedia, Brisbane Times, and Grunge.com. And so the story takes us to Australia. In Queensland, Australia, Daniel Morcombe was born on December 19, 1989, to parents Bruce and Denise. Daniel had an older brother, Dean, excuse me, and a twin brother, Brad. Daniel loved motocross and animals. To make some extra money, Daniel and his brothers picked passion fruit on a neighbor's farm. Daniel was a quiet, reserved kid. He didn't get into trouble and got along with everyone. And he was very loved by his family. So, Sunday, December 7th, 2003, 13-year-old Daniel and his brothers started picking passion fruit later than they planned. This late start in the morning prevented them from joining their parents at a Christmas party in Brisbane. After the boys returned to their house, Daniel left at about 1 p.m. to take a bus to the mall to do some Christmas shopping. Daniel waited at the bus stop on Nambour Connection Road under an overpass. This was an unofficial bus stop, but the buses would pick people up there. Bruce and Denise arrived home at around 4 p.m. Daniel wasn't home, so Bruce decided to wait for Daniel at the bus stop for his return. But Daniel did not return, so Bruce went back home thinking Daniel would be on the next bus an hour later. But Daniel wasn't on that bus either, and that was the last bus. Bruce then drove to the shopping mall but could not find Daniel. Bruce and Denise then go to the police station to report Daniel missing. The police do not take it seriously. They think Daniel must have lost track of time and is out with friends or something like that. But when Daniel does not return that night, Bruce and Denise go to the police station again, and this time the police take action. It was quickly determined that witnesses saw Daniel waiting at that bus stop around 2 p.m., and there was an older man standing with Daniel. Daniel's tragic story came after a series of unfortunate events. He was planning to catch the 1:30 p.m. bus. The regular bus had broken down. The replacement bus was behind schedule. Being behind schedule, the replacement bus did not stop at Daniel's stop and instead radioed the next bus and told them that a boy was waiting at the bus stop. But when that bus passed the bus stop only a few minutes later, no one was waiting at the bus stop. The search for Daniel began. Any reported sightings were reported. Officials went door to door. Water searches were conducted. All local sex offenders were questioned. Within 3 days, over 100 police officers were involved in the search. And as time went by, over 10,000 people would be interviewed. 1 year after Daniel's disappearance, a memorial was held. 1,000 people attended. In 2005, the Daniel Morcombe Foundation was launched. In 2008, there was a $1 million reward offered for new information relating to his disappearance. However, the police were no closer to solving Daniel's disappearance, but they did have suspects. One was a man named Brett Peter Cowan. Brett admitted to driving on that road that day, but there was nothing to pin him down. In July 2009, Daniel's parents called for an inquest into Daniel's disappearance. Of particular interest to the family were several criminals who had told police they knew who killed Daniel. An inquest was held in March 2011. The inquest called as witnesses the bus driver who had failed to stop for Daniel at the overpass, a woman who had seen a man loitering near Daniel, and several persons of interest. They will hear theories as to how Daniel was abducted and most likely murdered. More than 35 people will give evidence, including known sex offenders. One of the witnesses called was Brett Cowan. He says he passed Daniel twice on the road, but did not have anything to do with Daniel's disappearance. Brett had flown in from Perth for the inquest where he lived at that time. Brett gave several conflicting alibis for his whereabouts on that day. On the 1st of April, Brett was finished giving evidence at the inquest. He boarded a Qantas flight back to Perth. He sat next to a guy named Joe Emery. They had never met before. They had drinks as they talked on the flight and got to know each other. Joe told Brett he was moving to Perth. He had never been there and he needed to buy a car. The day after arriving in Perth, Brett helped Joe buy a car. Brett then showed Joe around town. Brett tells Joe he's down on his luck. He just lost his job. Joe has a proposition for him. He tells Brett as long as he doesn't mind getting his hands dirty, he has work for him. Then Joe introduces Brett to a guy named Paul Fitzsimmons. So Brett begins working with this gang in a series of crimes, particularly theft, prostitution, and the drug trade. The money was good and Brett was happy.
Wait,
so who's
time out? So the prostitution is Brett and Joe being prostitutes, or are they like prostituting other people, or like what does that mean?
Other people.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're
basically involved in sex trafficking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And the drug trade. Yep. And theft and things like that.
I guess that's what he meant by getting his hands dirty.
Exactly. Yeah, to put it lightly. So who is Brett Peter Cowan? Brett was born on September 18, 1969 in Bunbury, Western Australia to Marlene, a homemaker and RSL worker, and Peter Cowan, an Australian Army major and Vietnam veteran. He was the third of 4 boys. Brett dropped out of school at age 10 and began working odd jobs throughout his late teens, never holding down employment in one position for longer than a few months. Brett was a problem child and he never grew out of it. His life escalated to theft, drugs, petty crimes, and molesting children. He molested children at a local swimming pool and was written up for his first conviction at age 17. Brett's theft and drug offenses with the law had resulted in him performing community service duties at a public park in Brisbane. On December 5th, 1987, during one of these community service sessions, when Brett was 18 years old, he took a 7-year-old child from the park into a bathroom stall and raped him. Brett's demeanor after the attack was casual as he proceeded to watch television inside the child care center where he was performing maintenance duties. Brett was sentenced to 2 years in jail in 1989, but only served half of that sentence for raping a 7-year-old child. Okay.
Well, it was 1989. I mean,
it's not 1889. Anyway.
Yeah, I know, but I feel like, I feel like we still have a lot of ground to make up when it comes to the crimes that fit, the crimes that we're doling out for different things,
Yeah. I mean, we have not really advanced or gotten any better since then. Really. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why I wanted to talk about this. In September 1993, while living at a Darwin caravan park with his 18-year-old girlfriend, Brett lured a 6-year-old boy into an abandoned car yard and raped him. The boy was left in a trunk of an abandoned car with a punctured lung due to the force of the act. The boy stumbled into a gas station dazed and distraught, 6 years old, and the police were immediately called. They initially assumed the boy had been hit by a car because of the extent of his injuries. Brett initially denied his involvement, going to considerable length to portray his innocence by stating to the police, "I hope you catch the bastard." However, the officers quickly discovered that Brett was the only man in the caravan park not to offer up a DNA sample after semen was found on the boy's discarded underwear. A background check conducted by the officers also revealed his former molestation conviction in 1987. Police contacted him once again with the evidence, and he quickly confessed to the rape. Brett Peter Cowan was sentenced in 1994 to serve 7 years in jail for various charges: grievous harm, deprivation of liberty, and gross indecency. However, more severe charges, such as attempted murder, were dropped prior to the trial. Now, That's bullshit because he left the boy in the back of a trunk of an abandoned car. You think that he didn't think he was going to die? I don't know why attempted murder charges would be dropped, but okay. He was then only required to serve 3.5 years of his 7-year sentence. Someone, please explain this to me.
I don't know.
I mean, okay. So let's get back to Brett and his newfound gang. Brett's gang friends initiated him through more than 20 escalating criminal scenarios. He helped to get styrofoam boxes of illegal crayfish to Eddie, the Chinese restaurateur, picking up about $200 for the job. He picked up some more cash for helping to collect an outstanding $2,000 from a brothel madam called Cassie. In a bid to blackmail a bank manager connected to the gang, Brett was asked to take photographs of the man with a prostitute at a Scarborough cafe. He took part in a raid on a customs warehouse to steal cigarettes and was involved in the purchase of illegal firearms. On June 13, Brett flew to Melbourne with Paul to pick up $40,000 worth of blood diamonds, and they met Arnold, the gang's leader, in the bar of the Hilton Hotel. Arnold arrived with an entourage and flashed a large volume of cash. Paul had become Brett's primary point of contact and hammered into Brett how vital loyalty, honesty, and respect were to the gang. He told Brett that there was a big job coming up and he stood to earn $100,000 from it. In early August, Brett was told that a corrupt cop who was part of the gang had discovered that there was a new subpoena for him to give more evidence at a new inquest about Daniel's disappearance. On August 9th, it was time for another meeting with Arnold. In a room at the Hyatt Hotel, Arnold told Brett he was hearing that he was doing some good stuff for the gang, but he said the information that had come up about Brett's past needed to be sorted out. He told Brett the last thing they needed was for the cops to be looking at them. He told Brett that they couldn't have the cops investigating them because of him. He told Brett that he had done good work, so whatever it was he had done, they would help him clean it up. At first, Brett says he had nothing to do with Daniel Morcombe. And then Arnold emphasizes that if the heat is on Brett, the heat will be on the gang, and they can't afford for that to happen. He tells Brett he heard Brett murdered Daniel Morcombe. He tells Brett it doesn't bother him at all, and he can sort it out for him. He asks Brett, "What do I need to fix?" And Brett finally relents. He confesses to killing Daniel. Arnold tells Brett to take him through the whole thing, the whole crime, so that he can determine what needs to be fixed. Arnold gets Brett to lead him to where he put Daniel's body, under the ruse that they need to get rid of any evidence that may have been left behind. When they arrive at the location, police were waiting in the bushes and arrest Brett Peter Cowan for the abduction and murder of Daniel Morcombe. You see, this was a huge undercover sting operation to catch Brett. His confession had been videotaped. Yeah, and you can go online to YouTube and you can watch this confession these were all undercover cops. It was incredible. His confession had been videotaped.
All the petty crime that he was doing was all undercover cops.
Yep, it was all set up.
So they basically garnered trust with him.
Yep, exactly. This was a huge undercover sting operation to catch him, and his confession had been videotaped. This covert operation was developed in Canada called the Mr. Big Sting. It is a covert investigation procedure used by undercover police to elicit confessions from suspects in cold cases, usually murder. Sometimes an undercover cop infiltrates a crime gang, and in this case, they got the suspect to join their made-up gang.
Interesting.
It's the stuff of lurid crime novels. Undercover police groom a suspect to convince them that they have what it takes to be a part of a successful crime gang with broad networks and rich rewards. But the suspect is told the gang is only as strong as its weakest link, and honesty is all. Tell us your dirt and we'll make it go away. Brett Peter Cowan had inconceivable dirt to divulge, but he didn't do it in a hurry. This sting operation took 4 to 5 months. It's not clear whether police had long been planning an undercover operation to try to crack Brett or whether the inquest spurred them into action, but on April 1st, 2011, when Brett was excused from the inquest and caught a Qantas flight back to Perth where he was living, police hit the go button. It is a very expensive exercise and quite intense, requiring an enormous amount of resources and control, says one former Australian police undercover operative. So Brett says he saw Daniel waiting at the bus stop. He had also passed the broken down bus. He turned around, drove back, parked his car, walked to the bus stop, and offered Daniel a ride to the shopping mall. But instead of taking Daniel to the mall, he took him to an abandoned building way out in the bush. Brett says he panicked and strangled Daniel, but it's not what the evidence showed and not what he said to the undercover cop, Paul. He told Paul he took Daniel to an abandoned building and had some, and I'm quoting this, had some man fun 4 times with Daniel, and said if Daniel got away, he was fucked, so he killed Daniel. On August 21st, 2011, 2 shoes and 3 human bones were found at a search site at Glass House Mountains. The shoes were similar to the ones that Daniel was wearing when he disappeared. Brett led investigators to a place in the river where he had discarded Daniel's clothes, and even after all these years, underpants and a belt were found. By the end of the investigation, 17 bones had been found, including a rib, hip, leg, arm, and vertebrae. They were all confirmed as belonging to Daniel's using DNA from his toothbrush to make the match. As a result of the find, Daniel's funeral was held at Siena Catholic College on December 7, 2012. More than 2,000 people attended it. On February 7, 2013, Brett Cowan was charged with murder, deprivation of liberty, child stealing, indecent treatment of a child under 16, and interfering with a corpse. The prosecution closed its case on March 7th. 116 witnesses gave evidence and over 200 exhibits were tendered into evidence. Brett pleaded not guilty and declined to give evidence. Brett's defense team tried fiercely to undermine the credibility of his confession.
How can he claim not guilty when he admitted to the undercover cop what he had done?
Yeah, because his defense says that the credibility of his confession, they tried to undermine the credibility of his confession because their stance. Yeah, there is so. The defense barrister said the carrots and the sticks which were offered, render his confession entirely unreliable. What the gang offered to him was not just money, but the chance to be a part of something, part of a national brotherhood of criminals making millions of dollars. Unless he confessed, he was out of the dream job, because he did call it his dream job when he found this gang and was making lots of money and out of the mateship. Remember, this is in Australia. So even like the charges sound a little bit different from US charges. But yeah, that's the, but the thing is that, okay, you can say that he confessed under, false pretenses or whatever, but he led them to the remains. You know what I mean? He led them to the remains and the clothes. So you can't, the defense has to try something, right? Bruce and Denise Morcombe, as well as Daniel's brothers, gave lengthy impact statements. Brett said he had no remorse. On March 13, 2014, Brett Cowan was found guilty of all charges. He was sentenced to life in prison with a possibility of parole after 20 years. Why do people have possibilities of parole? Leslie Van Houten. Why?
He's also shown through his past actions and crimes that he's not somebody who can be rehabilitated. So at this point, so the first 2 crimes against children, he got much lighter sentences. But remember, now he's been involved in not just, statutory rape or whatever, abuse against a child, but he's also murdered the child. So it's like, why are we giving him a chance? It's not like he's going to come out and be a upstanding bang up guy.
Yeah. Ugh. This is my whole, this is the whole reason I wanted to talk about this. It's it's just like, I'm just so like, I'm just incredibly bothered by some of the things that go on in this world. I really truly am. And whenever I talk about stuff like this, especially this one, I'm thinking, I'm vacillating between talking about it or not talking, because I don't want to seem like I'm sensationalizing the murders. But it's just outrageous and atrocious that these people, after the first one with the 7-year
I
old,
know.
okay,
It's
okay, so he
crazy.
slips through the cracks. Then there's a 6-year-old that he left for dead after
Oh yeah,
inflicting
and he looked like he'd been hit by a
a
car.
car because of the injuries. And they
So
dropped the
awful.
attempted murder charges when you put the boy who was injured in the trunk of an abandoned car, meaning that
Wow.
no one was going to find him. He walked out. He happened to walk out himself. He had an angel on his shoulder, that little boy, and still he's out. So now he does this, and he gets life in prison with the possibility of parole after 20 years. He was also sentenced to 3.5 years imprisonment for indecently dealing with Daniel and 2 years for interfering with his corpse. Those sentences to be served concurrently. That's the other thing. Why isn't it consecutive? Why is it
Yeah,
concurrent? I put more
I don't
years
know.
on there. Why isn't it consecutive? I mean, unbelievable. So, for those of you like me who don't think a life sentence with the possibility of parole after 20 years is justice, Brett has had a tough time in prison.
Oh, I'm
Though,
sure he
yeah.
has.
So, for those of you feeling super down, like my stomach, my heart is in my stomach because the children, it's just, though he has been removed from the general population of prisoners, he has reportedly still been attacked on many occasions. In 2016, he was left permanently scarred and disfigured after boiling water was dumped on him by a fellow prisoner. The same prisoner then also beat him with a mop bucket. Brett reportedly spent a week in the hospital to recover from the burns he sustained. In addition to the incident where he was burned, Brett was then attacked by another inmate 2 years later. In 2018, Brett was assaulted in a common area of the prison where he sustained injuries to his neck and his ear. The weapon was described as an improvised implement. Correctional officers intervened quickly and no one else was injured. Based on these incidents, it is clear that Brett is on the bottom of the pecking order among his fellow prisoners due to the nature of his multiple crimes against children. Yay for that.
Yeah,
It's still not enough.
well, I don't know if you heard, but in July, Larry Nassar, the USA gymnastics doctor that like assaulted all of those gymnasts and many times while their parents were like on the other side of
In
the
the
examining
room.
table,
Oh my
he was
god.
stabbed 6 times in the chest and twice each in the neck and back. He suffered a collapsed lung but was in stable condition. This was in July. And I mean, I don't I gotta tell you, I don't know if you watched any of that trial. I watched all of those victim
Oh, I did.
statements
Yeah.
because they were very powerful statements, and also those girls and those women had a story to tell, and I felt like they needed to each have their moment to speak their truth. I mean, what they went through at the hands of this man was inconscionable and so heinous. And then for him to continue, I mean, he kind of like developed this godlike persona.
Conflicts.
He was operating, you know, uh, and conducting himself in a manner like he was untouchable
Mm-hmm.
by, and he was insulated and protected. He was at the top of his game. He was the most important doctor on this, even though every time he would open his mouth and you'd see him, he was like, he just came across as this very sniveling, kind of like pathetic looking person. So it was like, how on earth did this man become the but anyway, I digress. I will say that, like, I obviously, there's a pecking order in prison, but when you saw the fear, just the loathing, self, all of the self hatred that a lot of these women had perpetrated against themselves because of what had happened to them, and just all of the how distraught it made them to have to stand there in front of this person. Some of them, racked with anxiety and sobs and shaking and just being re-traumatized,
Mm-hmm.
basically.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I mean, I will say that it's I mean, yeah, I couldn't beat somebody up. I'm not going to prison. Let me just say that. I also couldn't beat someone up in prison, but I will say that, if there is a thing called karma, I guess that's what karma is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he did something to each and every one of these girls that can never be retracted or taken
Undone.
back,
Yeah. Yeah.
undone. And now he is basically like suffering the consequences of his action. So when you say that this guy Brett is, getting his ass handed to him on the regular, I mean, I'm surprised that some of these guys are still living, because it's my understanding that they'll get beaten up, they'll recover with injuries, they'll get beaten up again. I mean, they
Yeah.
basically are re like basically they get beaten up like off like horribly every time because
Just to an inch of their life, and then
yeah,
they. But
yeah,
that's what I feel they deserve, because death would be too easy. I'm
yeah.
sorry. I am so. Oh, I mean, so an eye for an eye, especially a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, and then he kills a 13-year-old. What business is, why is there even possibility of parole in here? I don't even understand.
Yeah, there's no
It,
rehabilitation for a person like this. I
no.
mean, literally, even I don't know if you ever watched Oprah, but she did an episode where they modulated the voices where she talked to a series of pedophiles on a panel. And one of the guys said that even castration or chemical castration probably would not have affected him, because whatever it was in him that was broken would have caused him to perpetrate crimes against children. And he knew that
Oh,
about himself. And he
interesting.
said the only thing that was going to keep him was to not have access to children, which means he would have to be locked up.
Yeah, and they should. I don't think, it's the same with Lauren McCluskey. With he um Melvin Rowland, was that his name? He was arrested and charged with one rape, and then he admitted to two where he wasn't, charges weren't brought up. But let's keep letting this guy out of prison, please. And then he kills someone. That's it's going to. I'm not an expert, but I would think it's going to continue to escalate. So why, I don't get it. I do not get why they are let out of prison. And one of the comments I saw on one of the YouTube channels was someone that wrote, I keep hoping that court systems all over the world will realize that people who commit crimes against children should never be let out of prison. And I want to add to that, who commit crimes against children once. Why?
Yeah.
It's like we do not take rape of adults, and yes, I'm going to say women, because you hardly hear men being raped, but rape against women, rape against children, it seems like it's not taken as seriously as other crimes until the person is until they're the the pedophile or the attacker escalates to murder. And then this guy still gets a possibility of parole. Someone explain that to me. Why
Well, I
isn't it
will
life in
say,
prison without parole?
yeah. Well, I will say this was an Australian. I don't know about the Australian penal code. I don't know about their court systems. I will say that obviously, there's opportunity for flaws in the system, just like there's opportunities for improvement in a lot of different areas of our legal system, judicial system, whatever.
That's
So
putting it,
I
that's an
I don't
understatement.
know. But I will also say that there's a lot of, I mean, there's been a lot of in the last 2.5, 3 years of kicking things back to the states to make determinations. The biggest thing I think about is overturning Roe versus Wade and saying, oh, you know, this is not the law of the land. We're going to kick it back to states to make the determination. And what did we see when that happened? We saw that a lot of states that were being governed by a majority of conservative lawmakers and conservative senators and conservative decision makers, they basically took away women's reproductive rights and classified us as second class citizens
Mm.
because we've got a bunch of men who are deciding how and when and what and where we should do with our
Do with our
bodies.
bodies.
And the
Yeah.
fact of the matter is that if the tables were turned and
Mm-hmm.
we were talking about
Mm-hmm.
castration, or what do you call it when you're having that surgery so you can't have kids anymore,
Vasectomy. Vasectomy.
vasectomies, or anything to do with a dude's junk, I'll guarantee you that if we
It
had a
would be
panel of women making
pro-choice.
those decisions, there would be no question.
Yeah.
So I will say that this whole idea of kicking things back to states to make decisions instead of setting precedent that would maybe be overarching for the whole country, sometimes it doesn't always like work in a marginalized group's best interest, because as a woman, I'm now a part of a marginalized group, and I live in a state where I think now it's a 12-week ban, which is not as bad as like some southern states, which is a 6-week ban, which is ridiculous because some women don't even find out they're pregnant until they're
Right.
10, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 weeks. So 12 weeks is generous by some states, but again, I also can tell you that, I mean, this state like gerrymandered the hell out of like voting rights so that people who were in poor counties and all that couldn't get to the polls to cast their votes. So,
Mhm.
I mean, it's definitely not the only flawed system. It's one of a myriad of flawed systems.
That's why
And
yeah, that's why in the beginning I included the entire world. I said the world is upside down. I didn't say
yeah,
Australia or the US. The entire fucking world. Um, yeah, there should be no possibility of parole. And is it because they run out of rooms in prisons? You know what they do with animals?
I
Like when I
what? Oh,
rescued Jet,
they
when
euthanize them.
yeah, they euthanize them for space. When I rescued Jet, I found him on a website called Dogs in Danger. It tells you how long they have to live, and it tells you the reason they are going to be euthanized. And most of them say space. So we could do that with people.
Well, but I will also, yeah,
My
I
sister is
know.
cringing right now, but this is how
Well,
I feel.
listen to this. I don't know if
Euthanize
you've
them.
I don't
Brett
know if
should
you've ever
never
read this.
This Brett guy should never ever be out. 20 years from now, 30 years
Yeah.
now, I don't care if he's in a wheelchair, he should never be let out of prison. So when it gets to the time when they need someone else, they need room, you can just euthanize him like you would an animal.
Well, I just have to tell you, this brings to mind a book I read called The Heart Goes Last by Margaret Atwood. And it is such a good book. It's kind of a dystopian, futuristic book where, in order to live in these gated communities and have a beautiful home and an idyllic lifestyle, the trade off is every family has to spend a month in prison. So, in like a work camp prison, like a North Korean work camp
Oh
prison.
my gosh, how
So you
interesting.
spend, yeah, so a couple or a family unit spends a month in this dystopian, beautiful, sorry, not dystopian, beautiful, idyllic living housing community, for example, with an HOA and manicured gardens. And then at the end of the month, they go to this work camp prison, and the family that also occupies the home that was in prison while they were in the home, then they come out and spend a month, and they do this. And this is how we maintain this balance of safety and harmony and beauty. And it is fascinating. So If you don't like to read books, get it on tape. Again, The Heart Goes Last by Margaret Atwood. You have to know that obviously something happens. It upsets the balance of this carefully orchestrated, like, dystopian utopia. And then you see what happens when even the best laid plans don't work out in the end.
Oh, that sounds...
It's very good. And just for entertainment value alone, it is so fascinating. So if you haven't read it, get it.
You might have me reading, Joy.
I might even have a copy. And since nobody emails us, nobody except for Noreen, if you want a copy of this book, I will pull it out of my bookcase and send it to you or anybody who responds to murderandeverythingelse@gmail.com. You heard it here first. And nobody wanted Demon Copperfield. So there.
Oh.
Or Copperhead.
So
Demon Copperhead.
Copperfield. Is it a movie? This one?
No, they haven't made it into a movie, but every time I read it, I've read it maybe 5 or 6 times. I think this would make such a good movie. Yeah. And you know who could play the husband?
Jason
Or the
Momoa.
Love interest? Jason Momoa.
Oh goodness, how did I know? Yeah, although not every good book would make a good movie. Like when I read Glass Castle, I did not think, oh, this would make a good movie. Because, but you know what? It was autobiographical.
I couldn't make it more than 10 minutes into the movie. Just
yeah, that was terrible. But this concept sounds like it would be a great movie. Yeah. Right? Yes.
It's great.
Oh, I want to read it.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find it. Maybe I'll send it to you. Oh, and what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, I think we should change the genre of this podcast to murder and comedy. What do you think? It's a murder and comedy podcast.
It is.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's what we do. We tell jokes and laugh and talk about sad cases.
Yes, we do. And we try to find the humor in things.
Well, Cheryl, even though this is a horrible, horrible story.
Sorry.
And makes me not want to leave the house because of all of the rampant crime out there. You know what else is a crime?
What's that, Joy?
That we be out of time.
Yes, we be. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. We be out of time.
We be.
Thanks for listening, everyone, and don't complicate your day. All creativity, commentary, and opinions in this podcast belong to Cheryl and Joy. Music composed and mixed by Gabe McKeon. Logo and merch created and managed by Kevin Callan. Podcast editing and advertising by Joy McKeon. Legal representation provided by John Bojezek. Please like, subscribe, follow, and listen. You can listen to us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, you can find us on Instagram and YouTube, and you can email us at murderandeverythingelse@gmail.com.
Bye, fishes.